This video is a continuation from another video that I published a few days ago where I showed you how to swipe to remove RecyclerView list items. So just like you're going to see here on the screen. So see the list item that says running out of ideas? I showed you how you could swipe to remove it from the RecyclerView. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to rearrange list items. So if I hold down on a list item, it highlights and then I can rearrange it and place it anywhere else in the list. Also, if I scroll, all of that still works perfectly, and I can still also swipe to remove list items. So if I hold down, I can rearrange it and put it wherever I want to. As I just mentioned, I did a video a few days ago, this one right here, swipe to delete RecyclerView items. That was the video that came before this one where I showed you how to swipe to remove the list items. So if you haven't watched that, you should probably go watch that and get you caught up to where we're at already. If you have already watched that, then let's get started with this video. So if you watched the previous video, you know that in note list activity or notes list activity, we have this ItemTouchHelper callback, which extends the simple callback from the ItemTouchHelper. And I mentioned in the previous video that there's another callback that's available, and that's just the callback extension instead of the simple callback. So the callback extension has a lot more methods available to us, and it adds a lot more kind of custom functionality to our RecyclerView. So I'm going to delete this ItemTouchHelper callback that I created in the previous video, and now I'm going to create a more advanced one using the callback extension instead. So the first step is actually we need to build an interface that's going to facilitate communication from the ItemTouchHelper to the RecyclerView adapter. And that's going to go inside the util package. So I'm going to right click on the util package, go to new Java class, and this is going to be called ItemTouchHelper Adapter because it's kind of adapting the certain functionality from the TouchHelper to the RecyclerView adapter. And I forgot to call it an interface. No, I don't want to add this to GitHub. This should have actually been an interface, so change that to an interface. And now we need to add two methods in here. The first one is void on item move. It'll transfer a from position, so an integer, and another integer named to position. So that's going to, you probably guessed, it's for when you want to move those list items. So if I was to bring up the demo application right here, which I actually did have, when I'm clicking on a list item, I need to know what position it's in and which position I drag it to. So that's what this method is going to do. It's going to transfer that information. The other method is going to be named onItemSwiped, and obviously this one is for when you swipe out a list item, because we still want that functionality to be able to swipe to remove list items just like we already have. So we need a way to transfer that information to the adapter from the ItemTouchHelper. The next step is building that class, that custom class that's going to extend the ItemTouchHelper callback. So I'm going to create another new class inside of the util package. This one's actually going to be a class. It's not going to be an interface. I'm just going to name it my ItemTouchHelper. I can't really think of a better name. You could name it something custom or customized if you want, because this is a note keeping application. I could have named it like, note list item helper or something like that, but I'm just going to name it my ItemTouchHelper. And this is going to extend, as you probably guessed, ItemTouchHelper.callback. .callback. And now I'm going to click Alt Enter and go implement methods and implement all of the required override methods. And we're going to add a couple more too, but these are just the required ones. So the first step here is I want to declare a private final ItemTouchHelper adapter. That's the interface that we just created. I'm going to call it, I guess to stay consistent with my source code, I'll call it MAdapter. Even though normally when I'm writing code, I don't really append the M anymore, but I'll just keep it consistent and add the M. Next, I'm going to insert the default constructor. So Alt Insert, grab that default constructor and pass the adapter as input. So now I'm going to insert a couple more override methods. So these three, get, movement flags, OnMove, and OnSwiped, are the three ones that are required if you want to use the callback, but there's still more available. So if I press Control O, you can see there's a whole bunch. And I wasn't lying when I said the callback, the ItemTouchHelper.callback, has a lot more functionality than the simple callback. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of methods here. I don't know how many there is, probably like around 20 or something. So the first one that I'm going to insert is on long press drag enabled, and I want to disable that because I'm going to be handling the drag inside of the view holder of the RecyclerView. The next method is item view swipe enabled? And for that one, I want to return true because I want to be able to swipe the views. The next override method is going to actually have some custom code in it. So I'm going to press Control O again. I'm going to look for clear view. And inside of this method is where I want to make some changes to the view holder when the list item is released. So clear view is going to be called if I'm dragging a list item. So if I have one and I start dragging, as soon as I let go of it, when I let go of it, clear view is going to be called. So basically when clear view is called, I want to change the color of the list item back to its original color. I don't know why I wrote that if statement. I don't need that. So I need to reference the view holder from the RecyclerView, and I'm going to call item view to get a reference to the individual view. Set background color, and then context compat, get color. I can reference the view holder to get a reference to the context, so get context. And then I want to reference r.color.light yellow, which is a color inside of the colors file for this project. So whoops, am I missing? Yeah, that's right. There we go. So that's going to clear, or it's going to reset the color as soon as the list item is let go by the user. The next method is going to be the onSelectedChanged method. Now inside this one, I want to check for the action state. So whatever the action state is, ItemTouchHelper.actionDragState or action state drag. And as soon as that drag is initiated, I want to change the color to that light gray. So if you look at the demo application, as soon as the drag is initiated, I want to change it to that light gray color. So I can basically just copy almost what I have up here, put that in here, but I need to change this color to a light gray. I don't need the context compat because I'm just going to reference r.color.gray. So, or color.light gray, sorry, color.light gray. So it's just a default color. It's not one that exists inside of my resources. And that should do it. I believe that's all I need to do. View holder, item view, set background color. Yeah, light gray. So that will change the color to light gray when it's dragged and then reset the color when it's not being dragged. Next is get movement flags. So this is where we define which type of movement we want this ItemTouchHelper to be able to handle. We want to be able to handle drags and also swipes. So final integer drag flags. So I can concatenate this with whatever kind of flags I want. In this case, it's going to be, I want to be able to drag upwards and ItemTouchHelper.drag downwards. Those are the two drag flags. But for swiping, the two swipe flags, so swipe flags, it's going to be almost the same thing, ItemTouchHelper, but I want to be able to swipe to the right, or sorry, to the left, which is start, and then to the right, which is end. So ItemTouchHelper.end. And that's going to be the same thing as what we did in the previous video when we had swipe ability to the left and the right with the simple callback. Now I want to call make movement flags and pass the drag flags and the swipe flags. So now what happens when it's moved? So let's go into the OnMove method right here. So when it's moved, I want to call mAdapter, which is our adapter interface, which is going to be inside of the RecyclerView adapter. I want to call onItemMove, and I want to go view holder, get adapter position for the from position, and then I want to tell it where it's going to, so the target position. I don't know what it's called. I thought it was called target. Let me just scroll over here. It's called view holder 1. This is actually the target. So this is where it's coming from. This is where it's going to. So I'm going to call it target dot get adapter position. And that's going to transfer that information to the view holder. And I want to return true because I want to consume that action. The last one is OnSwiped. And for this one, it's pretty easy. I just want to call mAdapter dot onItemSwiped, or sorry, yeah, onItemSwiped, and I want to pass the position that we're swiping. So view holder dot get adapter position. And that's going to be it. That is our custom ItemTouchHelper that's going to handle all the functionality that you can see in the demo, from changing the color, sending the movement to the RecyclerView adapter, and sending the swipe information to the RecyclerView adapter. So now the next step is actually working on that adapter. So I'm going to go into our Notes RecyclerView adapter, and first of all, I'm going to implement the ItemTouchHelper Adapter, wherever that is. ItemTouchHelper. Did I not make it public? ItemTouchHelper, ItemTouchHelper.adapter. ItemTouchHelper Adapter, there we go. And then Alt Insert, Implement Methods, and grab that OnItemMove and OnItemSwiped method. Now, before I work on these methods and I fill in the information, I'm just going to declare a new variable up here. So the new variable is going to be our ItemTouchHelper, the one that we created. So ItemTouchHelper, I'll call it MTouchHelper just to stay consistent. Normally, like I said, I don't usually include the M anymore, but it's just a naming convention, so it doesn't really matter. Now let's go down here and let's fill in those two methods that I just added here. So OnItemMove is the first one. Okay, so we have a from position and we have a to position. So let's get the from notes because we're moving notes around, remember. So get the from position, get that note. Then I want to do mNotes.remove that from note. You can use from position or from note. Then I want to do mNotes.add the to position, and I want to add from note to that position, and then notify item moved. And I want to pass the from position and the to position. And that's going to move our items around. Next is OnItemSwiped. This one's going to be quite a bit easier. This is just notes.remove, and I just want to remove that position. And then I want to notify item removed and pass that position. And that's our two methods. The next method is going to be for setting that touch helper. So public void set touch helper, and I want to pass the item touch helper, touch helper, and then just set that. So this dot m touch helper equals touch helper. Next, I'm going to work on the view holder. So the view holder is where we're going to be detecting all of the movements and then handling what happens. Just like when you're detecting a click, you detect it in the view holder. We're going to be detecting touch events and gestures, and then kind of using those in the view holder to take action. So inside the view holder, I want to implement a couple more interfaces. So I'm actually going to go to the next line, add a comma here. Whoops, that kind of looks weird. Add a comma here, and then I want to add the OnTouchListener because we need an OnTouchListener to be able to use the gesture detector. And then I'm going to add a gesture detector dot OnGestureListener. And now I'm going to press Alt Enter and implement all of those methods. So there's going to be a whole bunch that we added. I'm going to come back to those and fill those in just a sec. But before I do that, since we're using a gesture detector, we need to actually declare a gesture detector inside of the view holder. So gesture detector, I'll call it mGesture detector, and I want to instantiate that gesture detector, gesture detector inside of the constructor of the view holder. So gesture detector equals new gesture detector, and I want to pass the context, which I can get from the view, and then this to reference the listener, which is this listener right here. But that's not done for the setup of a gesture detector. If you're not familiar with a gesture detector, step 1 is implement the interface. Step 2 is declare an object. Step 3 is instantiate that object. And then step 4 is you have to pass the touch event to the gesture detector. Because by default, the gesture detector can't detect, it can't really, I don't know what the best way to say is, you can't use it unless you use it with an OnTouch interface. You have to actually implement the OnTouch interface and then pass the touch event to the gesture detector, otherwise it doesn't do anything. Then we can return true here to consume the touch event from OnTouch. And then of course, because we are using an OnTouchListener, I'm going to do itemView.setOnTouchListener and reference that OnTouchListener interface that I implemented up here. And since we're using the OnTouchListener, we don't actually even need the OnClickListener anymore because that's just another kind of form or even subclass, you could say, of an OnClickListener. So I'm deleting the OnClickListener interface. I remove the OnClick. I'm going to delete the OnClick event. I'm copying this, so I'm pressing Control X on that to copy that. I'm going to delete that OnClick event. And in OnSingleTap Up, I'm going to put that code. So now this is basically treated as a click event. The OnSingleTap Up is acting as if we were using the OnClickListener interface. So it's going to do the exact same thing. It's just that we're now not implementing that OnClickListener interface. So that's kind of the adapter pretty much all set up. Like I said, we still need to fill in some of these methods. Like we're going to need to come back to this I guess I could fill this in just to kind of get started. Basically, what you want to do here is you want to start the drag event. So I want to do touch helper dot start drag, and I want to reference this for the view holder. And that's going to kind of initiate the drag event process, but there's going to be some problems with this, which I'm going to show you later on, and then I'm going to show you how to solve them. So this will work, quote unquote, but it won't work perfectly. So now let's move on to notes list activity, and let's finish kind of setting everything up here. So I'm almost done. We just need to come into the init RecyclerView method and finish kind of attaching all this new functionality to the RecyclerView. So I'm going to go above the set adapter method, and this is where I'm going to put all the new code for the ItemTouchHelper. So first of all, I'm going to declare a ItemTouchHelper.callback. I'm going to call it callback equals new my ItemTouchHelper. So that's the ItemTouchHelper custom class that I just built. And then I'm going to pass the RecyclerView adapter as an input. Now, you might be wondering how I'm passing the RecyclerView adapter as input, because if you look at the my ItemTouchHelper class, it actually takes an ItemTouchHelper adapter as input. So that's this interface right here. So I'm sure some of you are confused about that. How is it taking a notes RecyclerView adapter when the constructor says that it takes this class as input? And that's because if you look at the notes RecyclerView adapter, it's actually implementing the ItemTouchHelper adapter interface. So therefore, I can pass that as input, and it's smart enough that it realizes, okay, he must be talking about this interface, which is being implemented by the adapter. So just wanted to take a second and explain that. Next is I want to declare an ItemTouchHelper. I'll just call it ItemTouchHelper equals new ItemTouchHelper, and then I'm going to pass that callback. Now I want to set the touch helper to the recycler adapter. So set touch helper, item touch helper. Next is item touch helper dot attach to RecyclerView, and I want to call or just pass that RecyclerView, and that should be it. That should be the remaining bits of the setup. So now I will need to still delete the node. Actually, I didn't think of that, because right now we have our OnSwiped. Oh no, that'll still remove the note there, so that's fine. So yeah, let's actually run it at this point, and it's not going to be perfect. Like I said, there's still some things we need to fix, but I want to show you the problem and then how we're going to fix it. So right now I have a bunch of fake notes being inserted. That's being done by the insert fake notes method, in case you're curious, but it doesn't matter because it's just kind of a data set. So I'm running this on my real device, and let's see what happens when I scroll. If I scroll, everything looks to be fine. Now let's see what happens when I hold down on a note and I try to move it. That looks good too. Now watch what happens when I fling. So I'm just flinging my finger on the screen. That looks actually pretty good. Everything seems to be working as it's supposed to. I wonder, I was actually trying to showcase a problem, but it looks like, let me take a look at the implementation here. Maybe they changed it by default, because it returns true. That doesn't do anything on scroll, because what should be happening is if you fling the screen really quickly, it shouldn't consume the event, and it should have actually messed up the touch and caused it to be rearranged. But I'm not sure why it's actually not. Maybe because I'm returning true from the OnTouch event. That's probably why. But anyway, if you are having problems with like flinging it and it not doing what it's supposed to, return true for on fling right here, and return true for on single tap up. That way the touch event will become consumed during a fling and during a click event, because yeah, it's hard to show you, but because it's not showing that bad behavior, it's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to. But if you are having problems, return true from those two methods and it should solve the problem. I'll just run it again really quickly just to make sure that nothing goes wrong. All right, so there it is running again. I'm flinging it. It's not doing anything it's not supposed to. If I hold down, I can still rearrange it. That looks good. And if I swipe, that gets removed, that gets removed, that gets removed. So everything is working as we expect. As a side note, if you're interested in learning how to build the application that I'm showing you on the screen and not just implementing the ItemTouchHelper behavior that I've been showing you, it's actually part of a full course on my website that I built for complete beginners. You can just go to my website, codingwithmitch.com, and click on Room Persistence Library SQLite for Beginners, and click on Get Started. It's totally free. All you got to do is register and you can start watching it. It shows you a lot of really fundamental skills, everything from installing Android Studio to setting up RecyclerViews, passing data between between activities, async tasks, all kinds of stuff. And if you're more of an advanced developer, I also have a lot of other more advanced courses from Dagger to REST APIs, architecture, MVVM architecture, and probably about by next week I'll have a unit testing course out with JUnit 5, Mockito, Dagger 2, Room, where I'm actually using this application, but I'm rebuilding it with proper MVVM architecture and then adding unit tests as I build it. So I'm going to build it with test-driven development, basically, which is kind of implement a small feature, add some tests, implement another feature, add some tests, and kind of iterate that way and build out the application until it's complete. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and I'll see you in the next one.